Henry, we are talking about House of the Dragon, Episode 4, King of the Narrow Sea. We are going to review the episode and then get into a breakdown of the episode, starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social. I am Nathan.
I'm Paula.
And I'm Colin.
Hey, the spoiler-free logline for this episode is after Rhaenyra cuts short her tour of Westeros, Daemon introduces the princess to the Street of Silk after dark. Paula, what did you think of this episode?
I don't know. I was surprised, a little shocked, but I did enjoy it because you get to see Rhaenyra experience a different world than what she's used to, and you can tell that she is excited about it or surprised. And then of course there is the scene between her and her uncle where I was just like, oh my god. And I kept reminding myself, this is the Targaryen. That's what they do. It's normal to them. But no, I thought it was a really good episode. And as I mentioned last time when we did the review for episode 1 through 3, you can see Alice. Is that her name? No, Alicent. You're gonna start seeing her starting to fight for her son.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting, to say the least. Colin, what'd you think?
So I think that this episode is definitely very consistent throughout. I think that there's a lot of plot review in this one, a lot of interesting stuff that moved the story along, whereas I felt as though the first 3 episodes were slow burners, even though it was still full of action still, but there was definitely some bombs that dropped because of this happened, and the repercussions of these bombs are going to resonate throughout the whole season, I would predict. And just to see all those different things, shocking things that were reviewed, again, it's classic Game of Thrones. It's just like those shockers are starting to appear. Whereas in the first 3 episodes, you were like, I knew what's going on. I get it. I get with the progression. We saw that there was a time jump as well. But this one was definitely had some really big ones there, and they went for it. It's very fascinating to see what's going to happen the next few weeks and the stuff that's being decided in terms of plot points and stuff. How is that going to continue, like I said, throughout the season?
Yeah, I think I probably had the opposite experience with this episode. I think this was actually slower than some of the other episodes. That being said, I feel like in this episode we got an answer to why they've been jumping years, and I'll get into this when we get into the spoiler talk, but I can understand why they jumped years, because they wanted to get to this episode. And then we have like maybe one more episode with these actors, and then we're going to switch over to the older actors because we're going to do a big jump. So I think they wanted to get to this episode, so that's why they've been jumping gears. Again, getting into why would be spoiling the episode, but I enjoyed the episode. I don't know that I enjoyed it more than the last episode or the one before that. Because it didn't have as much action in it, which is fine, but it definitely had a development that is consequential, and it definitely had some character development that is consequential. So it's not like a terrible episode. It's just, I don't know, I'd probably give it a 6.5 or 7. But yeah, there are some things that there are some things that we have to discuss when we discuss it in the spoiler portion of the conversation. I will say that I forgot to mention when I did the spoiler-free logline is that this is written by Ira Parker and directed by Clare Kilner, and the director here is going to be important to our conversation later on when we do the spoiler conversation. Yeah, it was a good episode. With some surprises. There might be some questions about, this is the story, right? This is the story of the Targaryens. If the showrunners were going to decided to take on this job, this is kind of part of the Targaryen stuff. I think they probably dealt with it as well as they could, because it gets crazier than this actually. Because I haven't read the book House of the Dragon, but I just prepared for these conversations and I've looked ahead. It gets crazier than this with the Targaryens. So buckle in. If this episode disturbed you or you had issues with it, there's more to come. So yeah, it's I guess this episode announces what the show is going to be about in a lot of ways. because we see some of the alliances coming up. We not only are we getting character development with Rhaenyra, we're also seeing some of the political alliances that are going to start to cause the house to unravel and why the house is going to fall. A few spoilers, but like this is a prequel. If you watch the first episode of Game of Thrones, the Baratheon takes over after dethroning all the Targaryens and having them run to the last two run to Bravos. So you can start to see the seeds of how this house is going to start to fall in this episode, which you saw here and there with Daemon and his petulance. But they just turned it up to 11 in this episode. We shall see how things work out in the next couple episodes. And as Paula said, if Alicent starts to think more about her child as opposed to her friend, because I don't think that Rhaenyra sees Alicent as her friend anymore. She sees her as she sees Alicent as her father's wife. And we'll get to the specifics of that as well when we talk. So yeah, I'm trying to beat around the bush without giving things, but there's a lot of developments in this episode. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we get into the breakdown? No? Okay.
Get into it.
All right. So before we do that, if you're enjoying the conversation, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel out, helps us grow, helps us give you more content like this. Without further ado, spoilers ahead. All right, so we can go in chronological order, or we can jump around. What do you guys want to talk about?
Do you want to get the elephant out of the room first and just talk about Clare just getting her groove on? I think seriously, just getting her groove.
We can talk about the almost incest.
And then getting her groove on afterwards.
Yeah. Let's see if I can jump there to some of those screenshots. This is afterwards. I think this is after. Yeah, this is after she comes back. But yeah,
I want not to go over there though because of all the.
Yeah, nothing actually happens here. So except for them kissing, which I mean is enough for happening, but it's not. There's nothing that I have to blur here. They're kissing. And what I was saying earlier about why they jump years, I don't think this has actually happened in the books. I think that she was probably still 15 when this happened in the books, but they jump years in the show to try to minimize the backlash of her being attracted to her uncle and her uncle being attracted to her. But they showed some of the seeds of this, like in the first episode when he gave her the necklace, in the second episode when he took the egg and she was the only one to get him to stand down. You can see that they had feelings for each other. So yeah, Targaryens, and they do the incest. Aegon was married to both of his sisters, so in Aegon the Conqueror. So this is very natural to them, apparently. Even in the original Game of Thrones show, Cersei would complain about having to hide her relationship with Jaime because she was like, Targaryens did this all the time. It's like yeah. There are a couple things here though. Like he's not. I think he actually has feelings for her, but he's also doing this to corrupt her so that he can take her place. He's playing her, and he couldn't actually follow through on it. He isn't able to actually follow through on it, and he walks away. If you watch the commentary after the show, they say that he isn't able to.
He's had a lot of performance issues. Let's just
he had some performance issues. Like I didn't get that sense in this scene. I just thought that maybe he wanted to be in control, and then she was liking it too much, and she was definitely into it, and that kind of turned him off.
Yeah.
But I think it was a mix of things to me when I first watched the scene. Like she was definitely into it, he wanted it, and that might have turned him off. But also, I think, like I said, I think he actually cares about her, and even though he wanted to do this so he could destroy her reputation, so he could become king because he likes her, he also couldn't go through with it. It didn't stop him from saying that he did it though, because he still wants to become king. So he still told his brother that he did it to try to destroy her reputation. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Go ahead, Paul.
I didn't think of it that way. I didn't think that he was trying to destroy her reputation. I just thought that he was trying to start a romantic relationship with her so that they would get.
He wants, like, his brother would never have married him to her except for if this actually happened, and he wants to marry her not only because he wants the crown, but because he actually likes her. He wants to marry her, but he also wants the crown, so he's manipulating the situation. If he was purely because he cared about her, there was no reason for him to lie to his brother. He lied to his brother. He put in his head that he sullied her, or in their terms, because they had sex, she's sullied. So he says, marry her to me, so he could take the crown. Like, he's manipulating her. And I think it's good that this was directed by a woman. And you saw some of the commentary at the end about how she specifically shot that scene with women having pleasure as well. And also, Rhaenyra, even though he's trying to manipulate her. She had some agency in this. She's not some innocent fawn or whatever. She wanted to. And then she goes home and she basically sexually harasses an employee.
A protector.
And forces him into a situation that he didn't want. Because he said no. He said no, but like what agency does he have to say no? Like it's people who say Sally Hemings was in a relationship with Jefferson. At a certain point, he has to do what she says. So it was a giant power dynamic disparity between them. He did what she told him to do, basically. So definitely, like I said, it definitely changed her character a little bit to make her a little bit more gray and less innocent. And I think that they did that on purpose.
Yeah, but also at the same time, I think that she was definitely just thinking, she had this quote about like how, well, I think she said it to Viserys, I see that guys do this all the time. Why can't women do that? So
this is true. I think there's a difference between like her having sex in a brothel, which I think she has a good point. If she was a guy, she would be able to do that. Forcing one of her employees to have sex with her is a different thing.
Got it.
Yeah, but I think I see what where Colin is going with it. Like, she's not the typical girl or a woman for that time and for that area. She rides
a dragon. Yeah,
she rides and she also fight, which is not something that women do. So she's a little bit rebellious.
Yeah, definitely. She's not typical in any way. And I think she makes a good point about how if she was a man, no one would care. But she isn't a man. She lives in this society. So it sucks for her. But she also needs to understand in this society, if she wants to maintain the power that she has to play by a certain set of rules. Because it doesn't behoove her to say, oh, the gender disparities in my time suck. I'm going to do whatever I want. Because if she does whatever she wants, she's going to lose the crown. So she has to play the Game of Thrones, basically.
Yeah, she does realize that, because that's the part when she was talking to Alicent and like basically vehemently denying that he.
Yeah, she flat out lied. So she didn't lie.
Exactly.
She didn't lie.
Grave.
But she definitely shaded the truth a lot, and I feel like it's not something that like. You could see this in the first couple episodes with her conversations with Alicent, when Alicent is very dutifully doing what she's supposed to do as a maiden and reading up on the book, and Rhaenyra is like, I don't care about any of this, and she ripped a page out of the book. And so Alicent has always done what she has been told to do by her father, by society. So I think she made the right decision, like not telling her the truth, because I don't think that she could have processed like, this whole system doesn't make any sense. Why are we playing by these men's rules? That wouldn't have been a conversation that would have went over well with Alicent. So she lied to her. I mean, you can see why she lied to her, but it also shows that she doesn't have the relationship that she used to have with Alicent. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I really like how they paired Rhaenyra to Alicent.
Oh, you mean the back and forth? Wow. Yeah, I can't sew that scene when she was what Alicent was doing. But that was a good scene though. It was two women ostensibly doing the same thing, but one in control of her situation and one not in control of her situation. So it was interesting to see that. And again, this was directed by a woman, so this director made the decision to cut back and forth between those two scenes when they were happening. So
one other thing that I would like to point out is at the beginning, they gave you the false impression that everything was hunky-dory. They were like, oh, Daemon returns, being a Victorian.
He gives him the crown of the narrow sea king.
Yeah, and then Alicent and had a very good heart-to-heart conversations, like, oh yeah, we're gonna be friends. No, actually no. And then everything, all heck breaks loose after that when Daemon, he's the loose cannon. We knew that he was loose cannon. Oh yeah, he becomes loose cannon again, tempting Rhaenyra out there into the wild and stuff like that. And Rhaenyra kind of like at first being like, I don't really believe that when she saw the play that was going on. I don't really believe that. It's like, yeah, sure. Like him being like, you're so naive, little girl. Like, what the heck? So I did find that premise at the beginning was very interesting in that, everything seems really cool. Like, it's over now. All the things are over now. No drama.
Yeah,
but then
Viserys is very quick to want to try to mend fences, because I think in the books they say that the reason he gives him so many chances is because he thinks fondly about their childhood and how they used to play as boys. Like, Daemon is like 5 chances past where a regular person would have given him. But Viserys keeps giving him chances because he still thinks of him as a little boy that he used to play with. So really, Viserys is the reason that this happened. He shouldn't have let him back so easily to cause this mischief, to cause this problem. But yeah, but now I think he's definitely gone. He made him go to the Vale.
Yeah.
Like, he's kicking him on the floor, and not only is he on the floor, this is the second time where he's brought him into the throne room, and he's asked him about something that he did, and he wants to believe that it's not true. And Daemon just confirms that it's true. The first time was like when he said that his dead son was heir for a day. Like, Viserys keeps giving him chances, and Daemon's going to do what Daemon's going to do.
Yeah,
so it's interesting. Their dynamic is interesting. But yeah, what's happening with Rhaenyra and Daemon isn't over, even though she's going to get married to the Valyrian. Spoilers for the future. I don't even know if they're going to do this, but they, unlike the Game of Thrones books, the House of the Dragon books it's actually done. She does actually end up with him at some point, even though she has a bunch of sons or children from the Valyrian dude as well. There's a lot of back and forth between the two of them, which is going to cause even more headaches, because she'll have children from the Valyrian and she'll have children from him, both claims for the throne. Yeah, it's going to be a mess.
The other Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But also, we have to also talk about what happened to Otto. Like, we know that like manipulative and conniving and scheming.
He overplayed.
But you felt bad.
I don't know if I felt bad for. I feel like he overplayed his hand. Like, he overplayed his hand. Like, he was reluctant to go in there because he knew that it could blow up in his face, and he still went in there and told him. He could have kept that to himself. Because the other thing is that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, do you think that he should have kept it to himself?
I think he should have kept it to himself. This is what Daemon wanted. He wanted everyone to know. You know why he wanted everyone to know? Specifically, they ran through so many streets with both of them wearing disguises. Then they were in a brothel with their disguises off. Daemon wanted people to see her there. Like, he took his disguise off, her disguise is off. They have very recognizable hair. No one else in the realm has that kind of hair. He wanted people to see them there. So, like, he was outplayed by Daemon here. Not only was he outplayed by Daemon, he was also outplayed by Rhaenyra. Because she hadn't been giving her father what he wanted for years, she knew giving him what he wanted would allow her to ask for something that she wanted. So
I don't think she had a choice at that point. He did not really give her.
She could have protested, but she turned around very quickly and like was able to extract something from it immediately. Like, she could have protested. She's been protesting for years, and she could have continued to deny that she did anything with Daemon. Technically, she didn't do anything with Daemon. She was with him. She lied to Alicent about being taken to that place and only being an observer, but she technically didn't actually do anything with Daemon yet. So she could have just maintained that and said, I'm not marrying him. You're doing this because of a lie or whatever. But she very depthly saw the situation, the political situation. She saw that it would be politically advantageous for her to marry the Valyrian because she also wants to be queen. And making some heirs with the second strongest house makes sense to her. But she also knows that from her father's perspective, she doesn't really want to do that. So it allows her to try to extract something that she wanted from him, which is getting rid of Otto. She probably knows that he put Alicent in her father's path. Like like Otto did that. So he's the reason that she lost her friend. I don't know if I don't think she can necessarily blame him for having a new wife, because again, I think she was understanding about the fact that he had to make heirs, but Otto's the reason that she lost her friend specifically. Yeah, I think it was interesting. You could see her starting to operate like a player in the game. She's no longer innocent. And also, like I said, at this point, she's 18 years old, which is again why they did the time jumps, because I think in the book when this happened, she's 15, but they specifically in every episode jumped a few years so that when this happens, the incest happens, she's an 18-year-old. So, yeah.
Now, Viserys brought some really good points to Otto about
his father's pendant that's brazen. Yeah,
essentially accusing Otto of maybe
killing his father. I don't know that he thinks that. It's difficult to
the heir so that he could become head.
It's difficult for me to tell whether or not Viserys actually thinks that he killed his father. He does know though that regardless of whether or not he killed his father, he benefited very greatly from Viserys' father dying. Like before he was a nobody. He was the head of a house, but he wasn't going to be the hand of the king. And his father died. His father was going to be king because he was hand of the king. His father was going to be king, and then he became hand of the king. So yeah, he makes some good points. I still think that he appreciates his service, because it's not. I think if he thought that he actually killed his father, he would kill him. he would have him killed. He just took his position away. He still head of his house. He might still live in the royal court. That's how back in the day a lot of people from other houses lived in the royal court. So he might still be at the palace. He might still live in the palace. And not only because he's like part of a high house, but because he's the father of the queen, so he might just still live in the palace anyway. So he can still add it to a certain extent. He just won't be in those small council meetings anymore. So he's gonna have to He's gonna have to try to operate in a different way. So we shall see. Otto's not going anywhere. So we'll see how he tries to operate. Because even in the preview for the next episode, we see that he's still angling for Aegon, his grandson, to be on the throne.
Yeah, we also haven't mentioned the fact about Viserys' growth in his body, so they don't really know what that is yet, and whether or not...
Yes, his body is deteriorating, yes.
Yeah, but all of that started really... These are cuts from
it is. Yeah.
Iron Chair. And that also shows how weak of a king, of a person he is, because he essentially being killed by...
This is true. It is slowly cutting him to death in it's medieval time, so they don't have any way to deal with the infections. That he probably has tetanus. And not only does he probably have tetanus, like he has tetanus and then he gets cut again whenever he sits on the throne, because he has several gashes on his back. He lost both of his fingers. Yeah, he's gonna die. He's gonna die in pain or something from tendonitis or something like that. Not tendonitis, from tetanus. Yeah, it's not gonna be great for him. He's gonna slowly deteriorate, and it's gonna be painful. And I appreciate them showing that, like him just sitting on the throne and being the king is like killing him. It wasn't a gift that Viserys gave him. It was basically a curse. Yeah. Anyway, what else did we miss? Or did we miss else? There wasn't a whole lot of moving around in this episode. Like Viserys he's drunk here, and he asks to marry Rhaenyra. She agrees to marry the Valyrian. And like I said, she takes advantage of the soldier that's entrusted to take care of her. I think that was pretty much it.
Yeah, I think that one final thing at the very end was that I think that...
tea?
She was given the tea the morning after pill, maybe.
So it was interesting. Interesting. It was very interesting that scene, because I was like, wait, did she order this tea? But no, her father still doesn't believe her. Like, now she needs the tea because she did have sex. And she just didn't have sex with the person that he thinks that she had sex with. But it's interesting that he looks at her a different way now, I think, because he thinks it happened. So It's interesting. Yeah. Definitely.
Like I said before in the non-spoiler part, a lot of bombs being thrown here and a lot of big reveals. So let's see what happens with the repercussions of all these.
Yeah, I think this episode definitely had fewer locations and then fewer actors actually in it, because like all the aren't in it, and a bunch of other people that showed up in earlier episodes weren't in it. Although at the very beginning there were some funny scenes when she was actually touring Westeros. And I think she was actually, where she was at the beginning was actually House Baratheon, which we never saw in the original show. Because while Game of Thrones got a giant budget at the beginning it didn't have a giant budget. So there were a lot of things that they wanted to show at the beginning that they never got to show, even though the Baratheon was the king. So at the beginning here, she's at House Baratheon, and there's this long line of people. This guy mentions her grandmother, and she says, yeah, was my grandmother as beautiful as they say? He's like, I don't know, it was like 50 years ago. It's like, yes, it was 50 years ago. So that was funny. And the boy also was interesting. So we got, I think it was House Dondarrion. I don't know all the sigils. Do you guys know all the sigils for the houses? It is, yeah. He's Lord Dondarrion. So the old man was Lord Dondarrion. We see the boy. I think the boy is he's Baratheon. And then the guy that's heckling him and calling him an idiot is from House Brat. And he doesn't make it out of this situation.
Nope, he does not. He got killed on the way. The boy has some guts, let's just say that.
So that's just, it probably, nothing that happens at the beginning of this probably has anything to do with anything. Like it's not going to lead to anything, but it's just nice seasoning around the edges, because apparently these two houses hate each other in the books. So him heckling, the Bracken heckling this Baratheon is basically on brand, and this Baratheon killing this Bracken is also on brand for the book. But yeah, it's interesting. The beginning was funny anyway, except for, I mean, it depends on what you find funny, because it looked like that boy was going to die and he did not. So
it has guts, let's just say that.
Yeah, by the end he has a lot more guts than the guy that's on the floor for lots of reasons. Anyway, any other thoughts about this episode or thoughts about what's going to come up in the next couple weeks?
No, not particularly. I think that again, I'll be very intrigued to see the progression for specifically whether how she plays this game, because yes, initially I think that her gut instincts is probably telling me that she wants to be rebellious, she wants to like be like a guy. Of course, she's still a woman. How is she going to play that dynamic and still be a liar and play both sides of the lie?
Yeah, she has to play the game, and she wants to keep, if she wants to maintain, if she wants to be the queen, she has to play the game. So she has to be a bit smarter about how she operates in public. And Viserys also says something very important to her in that conversation. He says it doesn't matter what the truth is. What matters is the perception. So as long as she takes that lesson to heart and she operates in such a way so that she maintains and shapes perception so that she can do whatever she wants to behind closed doors. She got lessons from her father in this about perception. And she got lessons from Daemon, even though Daemon was trying to manipulate her. He says marriages are political, and then you can do whatever you want. That is not the case for women, which is what she says. But that would be the case for the queen as she gets that crown. So she just needs to play her cards right so she can get the crown. Then she can do whatever she wants behind closed doors. Anyway, it'd be interesting to see how this develops. We have one more episode with, what is her name? Millie Alcock as Princess Rhaenyra, and one more episode with Emily Carey as Queen Alicent, and then they're going to do a giant jump in episode 6 with the new actors playing them at older ages. So we'll see. All right, that is what we think, but we want to hear what you guys think. So comment down below, like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next week. All right, guys, bye.